UVARs cast.
Hello, Anna. Yes, thank you, of course. My name is Klaus Schuller. I'm within Absolute. I'm the head of the Intelligent Process Automation, and we are a partner within the UVARs, a solution partner covering, of course, our main business procurement topics and specifically helping out on when it comes to automation, the digital transformation for multiple customers worldwide as part of the UVARs solution partnership.
Perfect. Thank you, Klaus. And Jan, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. My name is Jan Lipka. I'm a solution expert. I'm working since 2012 for Absolute. I'm working in the portfolio management, which is a bit the research and development department of our company. So we're always dealing with any kind of new and innovative technologies like chatbots, RPA bots, and also evaluating on how we can provide solutions out of these new technologies to our customers.
Great, thank you. So Jan and Klaus, today you're going to share some of your knowledge with us about procurement bots, which is great. But before we go into the specifics, Jan, could you give us a description really about the different types of bots, please?
Yeah, so at Absolute, we usually deal with two different types of bot. The first one is the so-called conversational AI, or also chatbot. And the key feature here is really that you communicate with your system in a natural language, which could be a spoken language or a written language. In our case, it's more, in most cases, really a chatbot, also written language. And of course, this helps you to easily communicate with your system. So it's instead of going to a S4 system or a Reba system, have a complex UI here, you can really just talk to the system and talk to the system what you would like to do. The second type of bots which we will feature is the RPA bot, robotics process automation. In this case, not the language is the unique feature. In this case, the RPA bot is really executing a task which would be otherwise performed by a human being, and therefore helps the human by executing a task for him. So these are mostly simple and repetitive tasks, like going to a mailbox, extracting PDF file, for example, an invoice, and book this document in the system. What we also do is we are also investigating machine learning algorithms, which we use to improve our bots. So for example, we will talk later about a chatbot called Probow, and this one is also using an algorithm to automatically determine a material group for a free text item. So this is what really makes the bot intelligent and what makes them able to make their own decisions. So yeah, I guess you could say that the chatbot is more like the face and the voice. RPA would be arms and legs, and then the machine learning would be the intelligence, the brain, which enables the bot to make its own decision.
Great description, thank you. And Klaus, do you have anything to add as well about the difference between bots and enterprise assistants?
So the enterprise assistant, that's a good question, is just a summarization or a chain of different process steps, which is then covered by the handshakes of multiple bots or technologies. So those technologies, bots, which just Jan described, would then in an end-to-end process cover and allowing, for example, so to say, lights out procurement scenarios. So for example, starting with the purchase requisition, doing the completion of the purchase requisition, doing in the next step, checking if there is a source of supply, selecting different suppliers, going out, sending RFPs out, which is an additional process step taking over by the bot, until then the RFP creation, the negotiation, and afterwards, for example, the awarding. So you have an end-to-end process, and this assistant takes this chain, this process chains with multiple different roles, normally as well in procurement, who is doing what, and is automating this end to end. And we call that the enterprise assistant, who assists over the complete process end to end the procurement department.
So Jan, how are bots being used in procurement today, and are you noticing any trends at all?
Yeah, I would say that RPA is already a proven and well-established technology. We noticed that many of our customers are already using it, have some bots in place, mostly for rather simple tasks, which are also highly repetitive and therefore a good suitable example for automation. For example, like I mentioned at the beginning, a simple bot which regularly checks your mailbox, extracts then invoices as a PDF document and books them into the system. So this would be a good example for an RPA tasks. Yeah, as I mentioned, many of our customers are already using it. Chatbots, however, we noticed are not that widely used, and if they are used, they are mostly used for, I would say, simple FAQ tasks. For example, if a requester have questions like what do I need to consider if I need to create a purchase requisition, who needs to approve it, then we can handle such kind of question in an FAQ bot. But here we also want to use them for more complex tasks, like the Probow bot, about which we talk in a bit, which is also actually capable of doing tasks. That's also something we notice in general, that the bots becoming more and more complex, and are soon also be able to execute core tasks of a purchase, for example, a complex negotiation, which then could be handled by a bot. And we're also noticing that the bots are becoming more and more interconnected. So at the moment, usually, if you have a task, you build a bot for it. If you have another task, you build a second bot, but there's little or less communications between those different bots. And this is also slowly changing, from a bot which executes just one task more and more to a real digital assistant, as Klaus mentioned. So we could be seeing slowly a transformation into something like the Siri for the enterprise.
Right.
So what we definitely can see within the market is that mature companies, especially in the P2P procure-to-pay area, have already adapted or have already automated 80 to 90%, even above their current processes, especially for the requisitioning up to the PO. And what is newly in the trend, and where more and more the move is within, is also to adopt and more digitalization, automation with bots and other technologies within the source to contract area. So that what really the purchaser or the strategic buyer is doing, also here a support and assistant by automation will be achieved by, for example, what I mentioned before, sending out RFPs, doing the negotiation for small volume contracts or small volume RFPs, where normally a buyer is not focusing on. In the most cases, you have resource constraints as well in the procurement department, so you have to focus really on the high volume. But here is the bot exactly where it comes into place, also in this S2C, in the source to contract area, to support the procurement department to achieve their goals.
Thank you. And obviously you've already touched on some of them, but if you could let us know what you see the benefits are of using bots in procurements, but also is there any risks at all?
So benefits clearly is, for example, the main focus is, of course, as everybody is business oriented, is spend reduction, and as well, of course, operational efficiency combined with cost effectiveness. And this is exactly where the bot comes in. On top of that, a bot is exactly following your regulations. So that means you have a higher quality achieved by the bot, and especially what is not only for the public sector, which we face very often, is that a bot allowing you to be compliant. And this is something, these are the benefits which are there. On the other hand, you have, of course, you have risk threats, because a bot, as the name also is of course a robot. What you have seen as well in old science fiction is always sometimes seen as a threat, as a job killer, and this is something what you have to cover with the management of change, which is a very, very important also topic, that it's more should be seen as an assistant, as a chance to move, to get freedom, to focus on higher quality work, and definitely not as a threat. And this is something which has been part and which is a key topic which you have to cover, and also to gain this trust. What we see as a risk mitigation, that we first of all in most of the cases in our projects go with an intended bot, start with that one to gain this trust before you really run and then fully automate it.
Yeah, that's definitely sounds like a sensible approach. So how would you advise creating a use case if an organization is interested in bots, particularly for procurement? What would be your advice to approach creating a use case?
That's a good question, and I mean to justify a bot creation, and especially also for the business case, the investment. What we in the most cases do is to go from a holistic approach. So we start from the strategy. What is the procurement strategy? Which of course is following the overall enterprise strategy. And when you there face what are the key topics, is it cost reduction? Is it operational efficiency? Is it compliance, quality, what you like to achieve? Then these are the areas for procurement, especially to define a use case. On top of that, you can also see, or what you have very often is pain points. Just I repeat the tail spend, for example, where you exactly know there is a bunch of potentially 8 to 10 million, for an example, on which we have currently a case for one country spent within the area of 1,000 to 5,000 euro threshold, and where you then can say, okay, if I only achieve a minimal amount of that, because this is not going and it's not negotiated at all, if I can achieve here a reduction. So this is also an indicator, a low-hanging fruit, and with the high potential to make a big internal marketing also for this case, specifically for procurement.
What would organizations need to consider to make sure that any bot implementation has the best chance of success?
What I would say is that the technology does not really matter that much. The bots are not technology topics. So when we have a look at the market, there are many proven and good platforms which allows you to build an RPA bot or to build a chatbot. So from a technology, it's would say a rather simple process. But what should matter is actually the process which you are trying to automate. So if you have a bad process, it does not make sense to build a bot and then automate this bad process. So you should really have a look at the use case. Is it suitable for a bot? And does it make sense to be solved with a bot? And if you have a suitable use case, we also suggest to start with a small one and evolve this use case. So we've experienced that agile methods like Scrum are also suitable for bot development.
Thank you. Klaus, how do you think bots will evolve in the next few years, and what would that mean for procurement in your view?
So what we see definitely, and what I mentioned before, the change, it will move more and more to P2P. So currently still P2P is one of the areas still ongoing. If it is invoice verification, bots, if it is integration into pre-processes, it goes more into S2C area, but it goes as well into typical supporting functions, where you have what Jan mentioned before, the frequent asked question bot, where you have potentially still some shared service center covering this operational task, or covering as well are the first contact for any kind of questions towards as well. Here we see a trend to support and to in-house, do this again in-house, and support it by bots together as their operational efficiency and within the area of the supporting functions, if it comes to frequent asked question, if it comes to scoring or other topics. that's an area where we see on the market.
Thank you. And now I'd really like to ask you about your new Probow procurement chatbot. Jan, could you give us a brief introduction? Who is it meant for and what does it do?
Yeah, of course. Basically, it's a simple chatbot placed in MS Teams, which allows you to create a purchase requisition in an Ariba or an S/4HANA system, and also to approve a work item there. And in addition to that, it also covers an FAQ functionality. The basic idea was here to really use MS Teams as a single point of entry, because today almost at all of our companies, they are using MS Teams. Everyone is using it on a daily basis. So the idea here is if you are a simple user, a requester, or a manager who needs to approve a work item or something like that, then you can really use MS Teams, a single point of entry. You just chat with the bot, ask him if there are any approvals open, or if you want to create a purchase requisition, tell him you want to create a purchase requisition, and then you have really Teams here as a single point of entry, and you do not need to log in anymore to an S4 system or to an Ariba system. Of course, in the background, everything is connected to the bot via API, so we are still talking to the system, but for the simple user, there is no need to log into any of those systems anymore. You just go to your bot, chat with him, or ask him anything you would like to do in the system. At the moment, it's a PR creation or an approval, but we're also thinking about extending it, for example, for a goods reminder or creating PO, or you could also think a bit about the reporting functionality. And yeah, then there is no need anymore to log into a backend system. So yeah, at the moment, when you think about the target group, like I said, it's not necessarily the purchaser or the power user. Target here is really the simple user, a requester, a manager who does not log in that often to S4 or to Ariba, and who can then just quick and easily use the chatbot to fulfill the tasks.
Thank you. Klaus, do you have anything to add about Probow, how that helps the user in their working day, or anything, any other examples?
I just wanted to add why, especially, or we used the Probow is also because the current generation is more used to use chat. Also, in your private environment, you use WhatsApp, or in China, for example, WeChat. So it was just a logical decision to say, okay, we go into a chat function, because currently, as mentioned, most of the cases the interconnection is done via chat function, and what is then within the enterprise the chat tool, and which most of the companies have, it's Teams. So that's what we decided, and especially also how Jan mentioned is that we focus on the target group, on those requesters which are not commonly working. They're searching for some things, they want fast, and there's what they requesting, they want a product. And this is exactly where the bot comes into place, supporting the requester, take him by the hands. And this is killing as well a lot of amount of calls to the procurement department, and support, or as well frustration. So it reduces as well the frustration of the requester in not finding. He really takes him by the hand. And what is good on this is that he learns as well. So even if you get every time there will be asked for a feedback, how confident, how happy have you been with the bot, then you can enter what was not so good, and it's learning and adapting that for the next request. So it's automatically, continuously improving and learning within each operation, with each transaction, or each chat he does. So that's really key, and just simple. That was one of the requests as well from the customer side. That's the reason as well why we implemented Probow.
Thank you. And Jan, what technology environments is Probow suitable for?
Yeah, as mentioned earlier, the technology really doesn't matter that much. So such a chatbot, I think it could be built with any kind of chatbot platform. In our case, obviously, since we are an SAP partner, we built it with the sub-conversational AI technology and then integrated it into MS Teams. And as I mentioned, in the background, there is an Ariba system connected, there is an S4 system connected. This is working via API calls. So if you want to connect a backend system, you must it must be reachable via an API, but it's not necessarily limited to an SAP backend system. So in theory, if there is an API, we could almost connect any kind of backend system there.
What makes it especially interesting for a bot is that we talk about Ariba, about a cloud function or a cloud system, cloud application. So this is also one of the topics when a bot would, of course, come into place to act as a user, for example, if no standard APIs exist, like, for example, in the S4 system.
Thank you. And finally, Klaus, could you tell us a little about the typical implementation time and pricing structure?
Yes, so we are calculating within a simple bot. For example, we calculate about 10 to 15 days in an average. This includes, of course, the initial design thinking workshop where we go through saying, okay, what is the use case? What are the low-hanging fruits? Which are the customers? Which is the tools which we are using? That's mainly one day. Then in an agile approach, implementing the base package very fast, so that as well the user get acquainted to it, can play around, can see how it's react as well. This helps to lower any kind of suspicion towards the new bot when you see how it's interact. And within this base package, so we are talking about and including the testing, the documentation about it, it's 10 to 15 days. And then we can increase as well as more and more appetite comes, of course, with our bots. We can increase and add new additional functions or variants towards the base package. Costs about, as said as well, 10 to 15K around about what we are talking about for a simple bot.
That's great. Thank you, gentlemen. Is there anything else that you would like to cover that you feel we haven't covered in the interview?
One element which I also see a bot is also, and the tool or the rules which you give to him and the interaction, it's like a master data as well. And you have to establish also from a governance perspective who is in charge, who is the design authority for the bot, or in the future if there are coming any changes on legal or regulations. This is one topic which you have to consider as well. That you have that the bot is there, but if there's any kind of changes, that this can be done as well easily.
Lovely, thank you very much. I think that was really good, gentlemen, very clear. Thank you.